All right. Likutei Moharan, we said that by the Shevach HaTzadikim is you elevate the power of the Tzadikim. The Das is Misraimim, and the Das is being pulled down to the Dibur. Yesterday we learned Terech Hafalef, and we learned how when you are the Pe'ula of the Tachton, of the lower element, actually excites an action and influences the element which controls it. How the guarding of the eyes and the ears and the mouth and the Yiras Shamayim changes the nature of the brain. So over here we're saying by the action of being Meshabech the Tzadikim, I mean the mouth is totally on the brain, right? The mouth is totally on the Das. When you Meshabech the Tzadikim with your mouth, it elevates the Das.
That's like a reverse mechanism.
Right. It works the other way around. We find this particular principle in many things. Even in the physical world, my sister's a graphologist, so the analysis of a person's handwriting, the handwriting of a person reflects his personality. But what they have from this, they developed another science, which is called graphotherapy, which means that they can work on a person's emotional problems by making him change his handwriting. In other words, it works both ways. Since the handwriting is totally on the person's personality, if a person forces to write it differently, it affects changes in his mind. No, it works. Changing your handwriting is much harder than you would think. A lot harder than you think. Well, you can fake it a little bit, but actually to change your handwriting on a consistent basis is close to impossible. Why? Because it is actually, a reflection of one another.
It's easier to change your personality before you know how to change your handwriting.
No. You're changing your handwriting in order to change the personality.
I'm saying it's easier to...
No, it's not easier. But what I'm saying is that what you need to do is you need to work with what you have access to. You have access to the Dibur, so you're going through the Dibur. You don't have access to the mind. You always have to work with that which you have access to. So through the Dibur, to the Shevach HaTzadikim, you're meramim the Das. So after we have explained, that it starts from the bottom up, with the Shevach HaTzadikim, the Rebbe started saying that this is B'chinas B'godim Levonim, this is white cloth. White cloth actually denotes that the whiteness, whose source is in the Chochmah Bina, which is called Lovin Elyon, the supernal whiteness, is reflected in the B'godim. B'godim is the Koved, B'godim is the Malchus, B'godim is the Dibur, B'godim is the... It's called... It's a Malchus Kadisho, it's a Tzedek Lavashti, we say it therefore, anybody who is Mevaza the B'godim, anybody who is... The B'godim is the Din, is the Malchus, is the Tzedek. So anybody who is Mevaza his B'godim, brings down the B'godim is like Moed the Malchus, it's Din the Malchusa. Then Din the Malchusa judges him. Then he gets punishments and dinim from the spheres of Malchus. Sfiras Malchus is that the authority, that, that's the police, that's the thing that carries out, that's the Mishkal Tzal Apol, that they are the ones who carry out. They don't make no decisions. They're just, and through this you're making a separation of Yichud Kusha B'Chur Shchintei. Because, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shechina, in other words, between the 9 spheres above the Malchus and the Malchus itself. The Malchus is, the Shechina is the light of a Kodesh Baruch Hu residing in this world. That's called Shechina. Kodesh Baruch Hu is absolutely everywhere, but in this world he is concealed. Wherever it is revealed, this is called the Shechina. You need to have a keli, and that keli is the Malchus, and when the light shines into the keli, that's called Yichud Kudsha B'Chur Shchintei. Kodesh Baruch Hu and his Shechina are one. The Shechina is always here. The Malchus is always here. But what is Golus? The Shechina is in Golus. The Shechina is separated from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol, which means the Malchus is separated from the 9 spheres which are above it. So when a person is Vazad B'Godim, we always say your personal conduct influences you personally and the entire world, principally. Because the person is Olam Katan, the person is a small world. You're like a remote control. Whatever it is that you do personally influences the cloud. So when a person is mevazed is begotten, he's walking around with disrespecting his clothes, he's causing a separation of Yichud Kusha B'Chur Shchintei. And this particular process is inherent in a mashal, a very powerful and rather shocking mashal of what is the thing that brings about this separation of Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shechina. The B'chinas Nachosh Moshich Legaba Ve'atil Ba Zuam. The Samach Mem bites the Malchus, which is Samach Mem is represented by the serpent, by the Nachash, and it basically injects. If you don't mind, take some out of the. Take it out. Take some out. You can take some wrestling, no problems. Take them out. Sort of wrestling in the middle of the. That's right. There you go. If you don't mind. The Samach Mem bites the Sphere of Malchus and injects it with impurity, which means it is through the Chataim, through the sins in this world, the Samach Mem has the koyach to leach off from the Malchus. And when it leaches off from the Malchus, it leaves a gift, that particular zone. This is what the Zohar says in Parshas Achrei. They say that mosquitoes, why is the sting of a mosquito, why does it itch? The mosquito, when they bite a person, what would they bite? They just come to suck blood. That's, they come to eat. They don't come in no war, whatever it is. But there's an instinct by a mosquito, being that it's a vermin, that once it takes out the blood, it leaves behind the gift. That's the irritant that causes the scratching and the swelling and the whole. Don't give me no gifts. You want to take a little blood, take a little blood, and give it to it. I don't know no gifts from you. But that's the Samach Mem, that's the Toma, that's the it's not enough that you feed off the Kedusha, but it's because that's in any kind of meeting between the Tuma and the Kedusha contaminates the Kedusha. So when people do sins, they enable the connection between the Samach Mem and the Shechina. And inevitably, when the Samach Mem is able to leach from the Shechina, it leaves behind, it leaves behind the poison, it leaves behind the and that's the Tumah. And what it does is, it becomes maybe B'chinas Dam Nida. This causes for the Shechina Kevyochel Dam Nida. B'chinas, as it says about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Madua Adom Nilvushecha. It says about, because in Sefer Yeshaya, and the Navi says, why is your garments red? This is the opposite of white garments. Why is your garment red? What is alluded to is that the Shechina, which is the garment, which is the Keli, it becomes red. In other words, it has the aspect of Dam Nida. That's the thing that separates a woman from her husband. That's the thing that separates the Shechina from her husband, from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. V'zeu b'chinas hakesem v'arevav shenimtza al bigdoi. This is the stain and the blemish that is found on the beggar of a person. Shalei zeh nifredes b'chinas hamalchus. Now this is the thing that separates the malchus. Shechina's uzoi. That's the divine presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mikud shabichu, from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that brings about anger. V'az, this is miskayim. The pasuk Kodesh Baruch Hu says, "Sha'og yish'ag al naveo." Kodesh Baruch Hu will roar over his dwell place. The Gemara says his household is a gentle language to his wife. Which says the house of Rav Chisda means the wife of Rav Chisda. But it's saying, because the wife of a person is his home. So B'lshon Tznius, which says the wife is the house. Itza is the obeisa. So this says, Sha'og yish'ag al naveh delay, the Kodesh Baruch Hu is roaring over the case of his household, of his dwell place, means the Kodesh Baruch Hu is roaring over the Shechina, which is the Malchus. Kodesh Baruch Hu is roaring over the fact that the spheres of Malchus is separated from him, from the 9 spheres, and it goes in the Galus. It goes in Galus. It says interesting parparois. He says this is, even though this particular pasuk is talking about what? It's talking about Madu Adom Nilvushech. Why is your garment red? Is not talking about the pgam. It's not talking about the pgam, but it's talking about the time of revenge, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to take revenge of when the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to kill the minister of Esav, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to exact his revenge, as Kaviyachol, the clothing Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to be red from the blood, Kaviyachol, of, euphemistically, from the blood of Sarah Shel Esav. So Papiros explains that the Nekama, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu is, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu is mislabish, Kodesh Baruch Hu cover himself with the same bechina that was involved in the pgam, in the damage, in the original. The minister of Esav, which is the big red machine, the minister of Esav is Edom, right? It's redness. He causes dam nidus to the Shechina. So when Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to exact the revenge from Esav, He's mislabish with redness, with the same bechina that the damage was, but b'kedusha. That's just on an aside. And because so what's the big deal? Why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu roaring so much? So he says because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu shoyeg al neved ilay, when the Shekhinah is separated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not just that there is a disconnect. That in itself is bad enough, but there is no vacuum in the world. There's no vacuum in the creation. If there's no kedusha there, there's tumah there. It's either or. It's a seesaw. When one side is up, the other side is down. When the other side is down, this side is up. So it says, then that's the time when the bad maiden servant takes over as the ruler of the household. She gets rid of the wife and she takes over. Shu malchus the sitra acha. Every single bechina, every single aspect that there is b'kedusha, there is b'tuma, like a mirror image. So the same way that you have malchus the kedusha, there is a malchus the sitra acha. Evil needs its own tools in order to affect its essence. So that is malchus the sitra acha, which is the opposite. This is the parallel aspect to the malchus the kedusha. Bivchinas, and this is, as we said before, in Mishlei Shifcho Kitirosh Gvirto, a maid that inherits her mistress. The malchus sitra acha is the shifcha, is the mistress. It inherits the malchus the kedusha, which is the mistress. She's the boss. That the malchus sitra acha he ishara, that represents an evil woman. She b'chinas esra. Over here, the Rebbe is moving in a typical fashion of we find many times in Likutei Moharan. The Rebbe says the Rebbe moves from one manifestation of a matzav, of an essence, to one which equals it in a different system. Like when we said the malchus is in the spheres, like the garments are in a person, like the speech is in the intellectual activity of a person, like the moon is to the sun in the celestial bodies. All these bechinas are the same aspect, the same principle. They just manifested differently. In the person's mental activity, the malchus is dibur. In the person's physicality, the malchus is either the skin or more chitzonius this is the clothing. In the construction of the universe, so the sun represents the chokhmah, as well as Terei Aleph, and the moon represents the malchus, it receives from it. So, as you notice, the Rebbe connects, he says, this is b'chinas, this is b'chinas, this is b'chinas, this. There was once there's this publication that Anash, they write their chidushim, their thoughts. So once they ask the question, what is the meaning of, how do you explain the meaning of b'chinas?
What is b'chinas in English?
Oh, that's the question. How do you explain the meaning of b'chinas? They got, I think, like 29 different
words.
Different explanations of what b'chinas means. and it's still not the end. So sometimes I call it an aspect of, a reflection of, and a manifestation of. It's an equal manifestation in a different reality of the same essence. So when we say that the Dibur is B'chinas Malchus, that means that what Malchus is in the reality of spheres, the Dibur is in the reality of a person's mental activity. There's the thought, is this, and there's the Dibur. The Dibur is the outside. That's the outer expression. But they are the same Bechina. They are the same thing. This is the same as this, as the same as this, is the same as this. So when we're saying that this is Bechinas this, it means the overriding principle that governs that we are talking about manifests itself in different ways, in different realities. The Rebbe makes use of this Bechinas this, Bechinas this, Bechinas this, to tie and create and explain a mahalach. Explain, it's not just explain, but actually to create a spiritual mechanism that brings about tikkunim v'shafa eloki. This is the most original, never before brought about with such force and originality in any Dvar Torah in the world. There's no sefer on earth which is like the Likutei Moharan, including the Zohar, Tikkunim, everything.
More than the Gemara even?
There's nowhere such a thing that does that makes use, because every Torah in the Likutei Moharan is a mechanism. It's an app. It works. It does. It does what it talks about. It's not just words. This is a reality. This is a mechanism. This is something that does things. And the way that it does, the best way to do it, that I'm trying to describe how it works, and you have to excuse me because A, my comprehension is limited, and B, my ability to explain is limited. And see, I obviously can only explain it the way that I can possibly understand it, no more than that. The way that the Bechinas work, the closest proximity explanation I can give you, the way that, so what? The Dibur is Malchus in intellectual activity, and by a person it's the clothing, and by the universe it's the moon, and so what? All these Bechinas, they oscillate with one another. There's something was called a tuning fork. Have you ever seen a tuning fork? That's the old days.
Ding.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So when you have a tuning fork, means that when you hit it, it oscillates to a certain, frequency. So when you oscillate a tuning fork of the note of A, another tuning fork, which is also an A, will start vibrating as well. The vibration of the tuning fork, of this tuning fork, go boom, it will cause the other one also to start oscillating in sympathy. Why? Because the inner frequency of that particular tuning fork is the same thing. Okay? So this is Bechinas this. So when you hit this one, it makes this one oscillate. The same thing is when a radio station sends out the signals it causes, I mean, at least in the old days when you used to have crystals, it caused it to oscillate. A bechina causes a bechina. It is also, by the way, one of the foundations that Einstein argued against vehemently and lost behind quantum physics. When they say when two atoms of the same, or two particles of the same atom, when they are set in two places in the universe, one on this side of the universe, one this one, so one is turning this way, the other one is turning the other way. It's turning the other way. So if one was to turn this way, the other one would turn the other way. They're two separate things. They're two sides of the universe. That means the whole universe is actually one thing. This is bechinas this. Let's not get into, this is not mishaneh. But the point is that this technique of this is bechinas this, is bechinas this, is bechinas this, and therefore it causes action. The Rebbe many times, he starts the action along this line. Dibur is Mishabeach the Tzadikim, okay? He goes over from Dibur, he goes to Bgodim, goes to clothing. It's the same Bechina, the same Malchus. Now he's going to the Inn of Malchus itself. The Malchus Kutchabrichu, before we're talking about speech, then we spoke about garments, now we spoke about spheres. But it's the same Bechina all over. The Malchus over here, the Malchus over here, the Malchus over here. So the minute that you prove that the Malchus behaves a certain way in one state, Dibur, okay, that means that you can say it behaves the same way by clothing, it behaves the same way with the spheres. I know this is a very, very abstract teaching, but nevertheless, if you don't try to go beyond, to jump beyond your puppet and say, yeah, but how does it work? You just take it as a fact that this is what it does. If something is true about this Bechina on one manifestation of Dibur, it would be the same thing with Godim, and it would be the same thing with the spheres. It would be the same thing regarding the relationship with the moon and the sun. Okay? So all the Rebbe really has to do is prove in one set of circumstances, this Bechina, and then he says, and therefore, in the second one, it works the same way, and continue the process, explaining the process. This is a super complicated and super abstract procedure, but you need to take it on face value in order to get too embroiled and be mebulbal with this is bechinas this is bechinas this. Okay, I got it. Okay, and don't try to figure out like you need to figure out how aspirin works. What difference does it make? You take it, you swallow, it works. It's finished. You don't need to know how the mechanism behind it. So he says, when there is a separation of Kucha B'chush Chimtei Az Sholet Shivcha Bisho, that brings about the dominion of the evil maid. Shir Malchus Sitra Achra. As we said before, there's no vacuum. Either this or that. It's a seesaw. Either this side is up or this side. Shazeh comes the neufel. When this one raises up, the other one comes down. B'fchinas Shivcha Ketisha Tirosh Gvirto. A maiden that inherits the rightful place of her governess. Shehi Isha Ra. Shivcha Bisho, the bad maid, is Isha Ra. Now the Rebbe makes another jump to a manifestation of the same principle on a brand new premise, time. Befchinas shu bechinas esra. Esra means a bedtime. Shlomo HaMelech, he says, yes, the 28 times. The times for bad and a time for good. A famous song. A time to build, a time to ruin, a time to this, a time to... This is a Mishlei. This is a Mishlei. There are 28 times. 14 good ones and 14 bad ones. Time in itself is Malchus. Time in itself is a tool during which reality can occur. Okay? So, Isha Ra Shi B'chinas Es Ra Ki Yesh Kof Ches 28 Itim. Itim L'Toiva. There's time for good and there's time for bad. As Koel says, everything has time. Everything requires time to become reality. For us to be sitting here and learning has to be during a certain time. If we're sitting here and learning at no time, that means we're not learning. All right? Okay, a time and place. So a place is a more gashmizdika thing, okay? Because you can equally say, if we're sitting and learning nowhere, so we're also not learning. But nevertheless, you can say, something, it's not necessary. Maybe you're sitting in your home, and you're sitting in your home, and I'm sitting in mine, and we're Skyping each other. All right? So we don't necessarily have to be learning in a specific place. But if we're learning at no time, then we're not learning. In order to I don't know if I should go into greater depth. Let me just finish this particular nekuda. So there's 28 itim, 14 l'toiva, 14 l'ra, and the itim l'toiva, the good times, are kalim for good. They allude to the malchus the kedusha. The itim l'ra, the time for bad, they allude to malchus the sitra achra. It's called esra, a bad time. Now, what needs to be done, it's not just theory. You have to defeat the shivcha bisho, the bad maiden, she esra, which constitute a bad time, a vessel for evil. Bivchinas, the action of defeat of evil is called bechol es, at any time. Notice here we're visiting this manifestation of malchus, dibur, this in the realm of time. Okay, bechol es, at any time, yub gadecha lavanim. Your clothing should be white. Notice how the Rebbe ties everything together. The time, the S, which is dibur, which is shivcha, which is the keli for anything to happen. At any time, your clothing should be white. There should be a connection between the malchus and the chokhmah bina. That means that the yesod should be the way it's supposed to be. That the kedusha will be supposed to be. Bechol eis darka, at any time, specifically. In other words, when a person wants to defeat the esra, the bad time, the time for bad, what he needs to do, and to rectify the time for good, this is done through b'gadecha lavanim. Your clothes are white. In other words, below above, without stain. Your clothes should be stainless and without blemish. Don't go around with dirty clothing. We many times, and I'm as guilty as anybody, go around feeling, it's just like, what's the difference? I'm not, adab verkehrt, people use, the begodim for covered and for schwitz and for gaiva and for bravery, I'm wearing Armani and Versace and Pancacci and Tantacci, I have nothing to do with it, leave me alone. Otherwise, if saying, they said that Reb Nachman Galinsky, Zichron Levrocha, he used to say, but it pasel bebigdoi. It says that the wife of Potiphar grabbed Yosef in his beged, in his clothing. He says when the Sitra Achra wants to grab a person, it convinces him that you gotta look good. You gotta look good. You gotta wear a suit from Bagir. You gotta go with Bali shoes, man. You really. And if you're casual, there may be, Nike Air, You gotta show some class, man. So mitzad echad, using the bgodim, for vanity, is an esra. So we say, something, I'm going, with these tattered clothes, that dirty, whatever it is. Who cares? I'm showing my contempt for, for this schwitz from this. Now the Rebbe tells you, no. You have to be very careful that your clothing, unless of course you're working, whatever it is, the clothing need to be clean. Because the Pgam Bgodim is Pgam Malchus. You're creating a disconnect between the Shechina and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And you're causing the Shivcha, the Esra, to take dominance. To take dominion. This is not a small thing. You want to defeat the Esra, the bad time, and put on the good time, the time for good. B'gadecha levanim, make sure that your clothing are unstained. They don't have to be, spitzdik or anything, but just clean, menschlich, just clean. And when the clothing and when when the malchus, when the clothing is properly clean, just clean. That's it. We're only talking about dirt. We're not talking about splendor or this or beauty. This constitutes the tahara of the Shechina from its bechina of nida. Bivchinos dam neka v'nasa chalav. The blood congeals and becomes milk. We know that a woman that gives birth, she doesn't have her menstrual cycle anymore. So what happens? Where's the blood? Where does it go? So the Gemara explains in Masechet Besoros, dam ne'ekov v'nasach chalav. It's what blood is in its roots is being converted and it becomes milk. So the dam nida, is congealed, becomes milk in order to feed the baby. And then the woman, as a chazaka at that particular time, when a woman is feeding or is breastfeeding her baby, the woman is becheskas tahara. The woman is becheskas tahara to her husband. The same thing is beruchnis, by the Shechina. When a person keeps his clothing clean, he is bringing about that kaviyochol, the Indian, that aspect of dam nida kaviyochol that the Shechina suffered from will be cancelled. It'll become white, and it will bring about the yichud of Kudsha B'richu Shechintei.